unless I got a bunch of money and a lot of good insurance. Then I might. Knowing the difference between the two. Now here is a simple psychology. And of course it's easy to say that if you wrote this chapter. Without there being such a thing as difficulties that we face, then what type of emotional human beings would we be? And here he's pointing out, on the type of trial that you face, it can be expected to cause a number of different qualities. Now here's two that are mentioned. It can cause you to be mad, can cause anger, and it also can cause depression. All right? Now, is there anything wrong intrinsically? That means in the nature of things. Is there anything wrong with being angry per se? Well, of course not. And who would we use as an example of an individual who never sinned but at times was angry? That'd be the Lord. Now, let's see if we could draw a conclusion, even though the Bible does not specifically in so many words say it. If the things that made the Lord mad and angry are the things that make me angry, then I'm justified in my anger. Because the Lord was angry and he didn't sin. Therefore, if I'm angry as he was and do not allow the sun to go down on my wrath, then I'm in all right position. Could we draw that conclusion? Sure we could. There's nothing wrong with being angry. The problem comes when our anger leads to sin. Notice in Matthew chapter 5 verse 22, Jesus says if a man's angry against his brother and he don't have any cause for being angry against his brother, then he's in danger of judgment. What is implied in that particular statement of Jesus? If there is a cause, you're not in danger of judgment. Now, the easy thing to say, there ain't never been a cause for me to be angry at my brother. Well, that's just flat out denying the Scripture. Because the Scripture clearly says that there are situations in which anger is justified when an individual's soul is hazarded and the cause of Christ is harmed. For sure. I mean, every example of instruction relative to dealing with brethren who are in sin spells that out in specific detail. I mean, think about 1 Corinthians chapter 5. Was Paul upset, angry with the brethren at Corinth? Yep. He sure was. And of course, this is not the only situation that he was angry with them about either. You know, this is just simply one of many. He was angry with them because they were acting like this fornicating brother in their midst hadn't done anything wrong, evidently. They weren't dealing with it. And their failure to deal with it, Paul went so far as to say, even uncircumcised Gentiles wouldn't put up with this. And here y'all are putting up with it. Sounds like Paul's sort of upset. Was he upset without cause? No, he was upset with cause. Did he just tell him he is upset and not tell him what to do to remedy his upset feeling and to remedy their sad spiritual condition? He told them just exactly what they need to do. You have to remove yourself and this brother from fellowship with you. You got to do it. Because the leavening influence of evil is just as pervasive as is the good influence of good. That's for sure. They didn't like it then, and people don't like it now. But and it's like so many things. The failure for people to like something does not change its propriety one iota, not a bit. Just because people don't like something. There's a lot of things that people don't like and wishes was different, but they're not. And the thing is, along the line with this lesson here, some of these difficulties that have to be dealt with are opportunities for people to show their true colors, and sadly they do, and the colors are black, so many times. Secondly, believe it or not, there is such a thing as depression that can be caused by trials. And if some of the things that some people have had to deal with were having to be dealt with by other people, then there's a good chance they would not deal with it as well as those that are having to deal with it. Now, it may not have made a bit of sense, but here the individuals, as God designed it, when you deal with matters, then the next matter that comes along is easier to deal with, seeing how you dealt with the previous matter in the proper way. You are more able to deal with the problem because you had to deal with problems beforehand that had the same principle involved, and now you're more capable of handling the situation and realize there's no reason to become depressed. Sometimes people just do what they do, and there is no reasonable explanation for it. And of course, there's the first example he uses is the example of Cain, who was angry, depressed, mad, envious of his sorry old brother Abel. And the reason why he was angry with Abel was because Abel did what he was supposed to do and Cain didn't. Now, if there's anybody that should have been upset at the time, it should have been Abel, who had said, Cain, what in the world are you doing, buddy? I mean, you received the same instruction I did. Why don't you just do what the Lord said do? I mean, do you think it's good for you to be rejected and your sacrifice to be rejected too? That's not what you engaged in worship. Come on. But Abel didn't really get a chance to do much explaining to it, did he? And so Cain, because of his lack of respect for God's will, then his disappointment led him to react in opposition to what the Lord actually told him. Remember, God, in essence, said, and this, of course, is a paraphrase, but I think it holds true to the text. God said, Cain, hold on a minute, nip this in the bud. Because if you allow this to go any further, it's going to get worse. It's bad now. I haven't received your sacrifice, nor you, the sacrifice giver. But your attitude towards your brother here has not got anything to do with the propriety of what he's done. The problem here is because you haven't done what you're supposed to do. Don't get mad at him. If you want to get mad at somebody, get mad at yourself. But no, every time he'd look at that brother from then on, he'd remember how God had respect unto Abel and his sacrifice, but didn't have respect unto Cain and his sacrifice. So we'll take care of that problem. I'll just kill Abel. He did not nip it in the bud. He let it get worse and worse and worse until finally it boiled over into murder, for sure. And then, of course, some of the things that happen that are discouraging, that are depression causing, the example of David. Now, this baby that gets sick and ends up dying, how did that baby come along? Well, I mean, where did this baby where did it come from? It came from an adulterous relationship with Bathsheba, didn't it? Oh. Now, the attitude, of course, that David demonstrated on this occasion was preferable, of course, to the way he could have responded. But he couldn't go back and fix the problems that led up to this situation. Therefore, he was in no position to take issue with the decision that was made relative to God's rejection of his decision to lead to the murder of this woman's husband so that he could have her. And of course, he came to the proper conclusion in the face of all that. Well, I can't bring this baby back, but I can go to this baby, which is, of course, a very encouraging thing that many people rely on even to this day. And I'm one of them. We'll have to stop right there. I promise. Got my fingers crossed. I promise we're not going to go this slow. We will finish this lesson if I'm alive, on Wednesday evening. And we'll go further. I'm going through this book, and I'm culling some of the lessons that are sort of repetitive. And of course, if you're studying a whole book on crises and all the areas, there's going to be a lot of repetition. So we'll deal with it the best we can. Does anybody got any questions? Anybody got any comments? All right. Thank y'all so much.